The Timekeeper's Librarium Part 1. The discovery in the heart of a forgotten town, hidden by a shroud of mist and secrecy, stood the Timekeeper's Librarium. This ancient building was unlike any library known to men. Its towering shelves were filled with books that seemed to ebb and flow with an ethereal glow, driven by unseen currents. No one in living memory had ventured inside, for the townsfolk believed it was cursed. Every family had tales of great-grandfathers who disappeared upon daring to step through its heavy, intricately carved doors. The legend of the librarium fascinated Ellie MacKenzie, an aspiring historian with a penchant for the eerie and unknown. She had been researching lost libraries when she came across an old, tattered journal in her university's archive. The pages, yellowed and brittle, depicted the mystique surrounding the Timekeeper's Librarium. Despite warnings etched in agonizing detail about those who never returned, her curiosity overpowered her caution. Ellie packed her bags and set out for the town, its name itself almost obliterated from maps and records. As her car trundled down narrow, winding roads, an overwhelming sense of foreboding took hold. Hoary oaks, gnarled and twisted, stood sentinel along the roadside, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The setting sun cast elongated shadows, transforming the landscape into something grotesque and almost animate. Reaching the town at dusk, she encountered a heavy, oppressive silence. The townsfolk scurried away from her presence, their eyes diverting, inexplicably terrified. Only one person dared meet her gaze, an old man with snow-white hair and a haunted expression, sitting on the stoop of a decrepit house. "You don't belong here," he croaked, his voice gravelly from disuse. "You're here for the librarium, aren't you?" Ellie nodded, the hair on the back of her neck standing up. "Curiosity is a dangerous thing," he murmured. "But if you insist, follow the mist. It will guide you." Ignoring the freezing dread pooling in her stomach, Ellie followed his words to the letter, driving deeper into the silent town. At last, she found herself at a wrought iron gate, rusted and fused shut, shrouded in a perpetual fog. Beyond it, the silhouette of the Timekeeper's Librarium rose intimidatingly, an architectural monstrosity, bristling with turrets and gargoyles. With effort, she pushed the gate open, its creak echoing into the mist. Each step towards the library felt like wading through unseen currents, pulling her ever so slightly back, as if the building itself resisted her approach. The large, ominous doors loomed before her, intricately carved with symbols she couldn't decipher and clockwork mechanisms embedded into the wood. Taking a deep breath, Ellie pushed the doors open and stepped inside. Part 2. The Shadows Within. As soon as she crossed the threshold, the doors slammed shut with an echoing finality. The air inside was heavy and still, as if time itself had come to a standstill. The grand foyer was dimly lit by flickering lanterns, casting shadow puppets along the ancient walls. Dust motes floated through the air like remnants of lost souls. The eerie silence was interrupted only by the soft ticking of numerous clocks hanging on the walls, each showing a different time. There was no apparent reason for this strange decor, but Ellie sensed there was a method to this madness, a sinister method. She made her way deeper into the librarium, her footsteps muffled by a thick, ancient carpet. Tall shelves loomed over her, filled with leather-bound tomes and scrolls written in languages she couldn't recognize. It was clear these were not ordinary books. They hummed with a strange energy, as if aware of her presence. Drawn by an inexplicable force, Ellie ventured further into the labyrinthine structure. In the heart of the library, a colossal grandfather clock stood, its pendulum swinging silently in the still air. It was unlike any clock she had ever seen, adorned with celestial motifs and cryptic symbols. She reached out to touch its polished surface, and as her fingers brushed the cold metal, a surge of energy jolted through her. The clock's hands began to move, faster and faster, until they blurred into a whirlwind of time. Suddenly, the air was filled with whispers, disembodied voices speaking in hushed tones, warning her to leave. But Ellie was rooted to the spot, unable to tear her eyes away from the clock. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, overlapping into a cacophony of sound. Then, as abruptly as it had started, the clock stopped, and the whispers ceased. Ellie took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she had to find out more about this place, about the secrets it held, and the forces that guarded it so fiercely. She made her way to a reading nook, where an old wooden desk stood covered in a thick layer of dust. There, she found an open book, its pages filled with meticulously detailed notes. The handwriting was elegant, yet archaic, and as she read, she realized it was the journal of the Timekeeper, the enigmatic figure who had once watched over the Librarium. The journal spoke of a hidden chamber deep within the library, a place where time itself was said to be stored. It was guarded by shadows, entities that existed between moments, neither alive nor dead. The Timekeeper had bound these shadows to the Librarium, using them to protect the knowledge it contained. Ellie's heart raced as she read on, the allure of forbidden knowledge drawing her deeper into the journal's pages. She knew she had to find this hidden chamber, to uncover the truths hidden within its ancient walls. But as she set off on her quest, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that the shadows were closing in, ready to claim another soul for the Librarium. Part 3. The Twisted Path. Ellie wandered through the labyrinth of bookshelves, each path more confusing and disorienting than the last. She felt as though the Librarium itself bent and twisted around her, deliberately throwing her off course. The atmosphere grew denser, and the ticking of the clock seemed to come from every direction, blending into a single, persistent drone that filled her mind. She paused at a crossroad of 4 identical hallways, took out her phone to consult the digital compass, but found the device dead, its screen lifeless and black, just as if it was swallowed by the timeless air of the Librarium. Panic started to creep in, her heart racing with the realization that she might be lost forever, trapped in this maze-like abode. Desperation ignited her determination, and she decided to continue onward, choosing doors and passageways at random. Strange sounds echoed from distant corridors, the flutter of pages, and ghostly whispers of voices caught between the past and present. Each turn she made brought her closer to the uncanny. Painting and portraits of long-forgotten figures turned unnaturally to follow her movements with their eyes. After what felt like hours, Ellie arrived at a vast circular room at the very center of the Librarium. At its heart, surrounded by brassy celestial spheres and astrological devices, was an ancient globe, seemingly made from an amalgamation of metal and, unsettlingly, fragments of ancient parchment. It rotated slowly, emitting a pale, spectral light. Ellie approached it with trepidation, the air around her growing colder with each step. As she examined the globe, she noticed markings and names of places completely alien to her, as if it mapped not only Earth, but realms beyond human comprehension. As her eyes traced the contours of the celestial artifact, she saw it. A hidden latch, barely visible unless closely inspected. With a shaking hand, Ellie pressed it, and the entire floor beneath her trembled. The walls responded to her action by sliding noiselessly aside, revealing a concealed stairway leading downwards into pitch-black darkness. Gathering her nerve, Ellie descended, each step creaking ominously beneath her weight. The air grew colder still, carrying a faint scent of decay and mildew. Her trembling hands gripped a tiny flashlight, its weak beam cutting through the inky darkness. The narrow stairway seemed to stretch on perpetually. When she finally reached the bottom, she found herself standing before a heavy wooden door, adorned with intricate carvings identical to those on the entrance of the librarium above. With great effort, she pushed it open. Inside was a sprawling chamber filled with timeless relics, a trove of forgotten history and arcane knowledge. At the center was a pedestal upon which sat a grand leather-bound book, glowing faintly with an inner light. Ellie approached it cautiously, knowing she was looking at the very heart of everything the Timekeeper had guarded. But the moment she attempted to touch the tome, the shadows that lurked within the chamber stirred. At first, these movements were subtle, like a flicker at the edge of her vision. Then, as if realizing their domain had been breached, they coalesced into physical forms. No longer whispers, but dark humanoid entities with eyes like abyssal voids. One of the shadows detached itself from the others, a fluid and sinuous form shifting with an otherworldly grace. It spoke not with words, but directly into Ellie's mind, a voice filled with resentment and sorrow. "You should not be here." Ellie tried to retreat, but her feet felt cemented to the ground. This wasn't just fear. The shadows seemed to draw from her very movement, freezing her in place. She had disturbed a balance, long kept and unspoken. "Who are you?" Ellie's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. "We are the keepers of what shouldn't be touched, guardians of the forgotten," the shadowy figure intoned. "You have sought what's not meant for mortal light. We protect the fabric of time itself," another entity chimed in, its voice rolling like thunder in a distant storm. "Knowledge comes with a price." And with that, Ellie felt a scream tearing from her throat, but no sound emerged. The surrounding shadows surged, closing in around her, their touch making her skin cold as ice. The chamber dimmed, the light within the ancient book flickering before being extinguished altogether. Ellie found herself lifted from the ground, suspended in a vortex of darkness. And for the first time, she understood the true nature of the Librarium, the forbidden knowledge it contained, the shadows that protected it, and the impossibility of escape. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when I upload new content. There's more to come, including the continuation of Part 4, The Timeless Curse, and Part 5, The Echoes of Eternity. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.